Hello, stand-up paddle community. This is Kristin Thomas on behalf of Supconnect. We're thrilled you're here for another Thursday interview. As we're reaching out in the world, I guess sometimes it's going to be Friday, but we're going to the UK today where it's late in the evening, even though it's early afternoon here in California. Just a reminder that we're interviewing really interesting people who are involved in stand-up paddling in some way. And we do have a follow-up group on Facebook. So if you didn't get to see it live, it is recorded. And it's first on IGTV, then it will be on Supconnect's YouTube. Our group on Facebook is called Supconnect Live Discussions. And that's where, because of this format, we can't always show pictures or post links. Or maybe you didn't get to ask the question you wanted to ask. So our interviewees are there, and we'll post some pictures and links and follow up there. So thanks for being here today. I'm very excited about today. I'm going to be introducing to you, and we're going to be chatting with the wonderful David Walker, who entrepreneurial, passionate stand-up paddler himself and racer, of course, but created a app for stand-up paddleboarding called Paddle Logger, which we're going to learn all about in just a few moments. And I'm always supposed to ask a question, so my why don't you guess is, what is the discipline of SUP that David thinks he participates in, but he does not think he's good at? We'll tell you that one later. So let me bring on David Walker from the UK, which of course is the whole country. He lives outside of London. He's also lived in the southern part. I got to get on my geography here. UK is pretty general, huh? How are you, David? Good to see you.
Indeed. I'm really good. How's it going?
Great.
Oh, I'm gonna just fiddle with the angles here. As we were discussing yesterday, the tower of boxes and stand.
Yes.
Stand. I'm just trying to.
Well, I see some of our friends' names scrolling by from all parts of the world. Sup Junkie UK is saying hello, hello. And I think I saw Bill Kraft, who's from St. Croix. His name scroll by. Kind of fun, isn't it? How we can connect during these times. And I love that there's been just a lot more of this kind of thing in content. So David,
100%.
so yeah, we're going to have lots to talk about, but let's start kind of with your stand-up paddle story. So I think you've been paddling for a decade, you said about? Where'd you find it? And then what was your...
coming up to a decade really. And
what was your hook? What really got you to like it?
I think it's probably like most people, you kind of see it and you go, oh, that looks quite cool. Or at least to a lot of people. And I was just like, I've just got to give it a go, got to try it. And there's this moment that I've never been able to fully describe to anyone, but I'm 90% sure that every stand-up paddler knows it, is that when you very, very first stand up, and there's like the perspective changes, you're kind of walking on water, the Jesus complex comes out, like the whole, like, there's this whole, like, it's a special moment, right? It's really, really cool. And I'm sure you've had it, and I'm sure lots of the viewers have had it as well. And just ever since then, really, it's just kind of, wow, I've just got to keep doing this. It's just really kind of gets you kind of in a mental place, and it's just great. And yeah, that was about probably, coming up to a decade ago now, and I haven't really looked back.
So did you see someone else doing it, or did somebody tell you about it? Did you see a picture of it? I mean, a decade ago, there weren't so many pictures in magazines like there are now.
Exactly. I saw somebody, I think I saw somebody doing it whilst I was I did a bit of traveling and things, and I was in South Africa. And I saw someone doing it. I was like, that looks pretty cool. I didn't really think too much of it. And then when I was back in the UK, guys down on the south coast, down in Brighton, if you know the UK at all, there was a Sup Club there, and I was just like, just trying it. I went by myself, really kind of safe lagoon, not but like, it must have been about this deep. But they did lots of cool water sports and just got involved. And, I was like, okay, this is cool. And then, I moved away, went down to university, and there was a local club down there, and got really, really involved in that scene. And I think having access to kind of a small community that was really driving the sport at that time, and everyone was just really, really passionate about it. Everyone was, especially like kind of exploring it, trying to do new things, whether it was getting involved in racing, we were all on like 10.6s, having like really fun beach races that were like 1.5 kilometers long, and they were just really good fun. And it's like, that's the best bit. It's just paddling out with your mates, you know, around the coastline, having an explore, you know, snorkel on the front of the board, fins, going for a dive, you know, like all of those things kind of really spoke to me, I suppose. And yeah, that's kind of how it really kind of started and got the ball rolling, I think, for me paddling.
Yeah. So over this decade, a lot has gone on in your life, and you mentioned university and all. And I think the paddle logger story kind of meshes with that. So what kind of led you to that? Obviously, just from what I know of you and talking with you, you're very passionate and you're very entrepreneurial and creative. So what's the story of getting to creating an app?
I mean, full disclosure, like, this wasn't the plan. As kind of cool things ever are, right? Like, I was at university, I was getting into paddling, it was really, really cool. I was thinking, I said, what am I going to do with life? I thought, I'll tell you what, I'm getting really into kind of academia. So I started, like, I want to become a researcher, and did a master's degree and all of these kind of things. And then went on and was a researcher at the university on some other really cool projects. But kind of bubbling away underneath all my career stuff was this paddleboarding, was paddleboarding and paddle logger. And it actually started kind of quite early on, where I essentially, you know, if anyone is watching this and in technology, that they'll laugh at me, because it's incredibly naive. But I went, you know what? I've got 2 months off in summer, between my second and my third year. I'm going to spend 1 month teaching myself how to code and how to write an app, because I was like that's what, you know, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to spend 1 month designing it and actually building Paddle Logger. And then I was like, and that's it, brilliant. There's nothing else out there. I'll just have beer money, and I'll just have money to kind of, it's quite a nice little, you know, for the rest of my university career, I suppose. And it's always been that, and, you know, it's always been that kind of passion project, that little side gig, the thing that kind of took me out of everything else. And a friend of mine, and I was kind of umming and ahhing about it, and a really good friend of mine just kind of went, well, why don't you just start it up? You've got this idea, why don't you just do it? And I said, well, I can't code, I can't design, I don't know how to run a business, I don't know what marketing is. Like, I'm not built for this, you know, I'm not actually a very good paddler, you know, like, there's like all of these things. I didn't feel like I had a lot of the skills.
Okay, so perfect. I love that. So you did it anyway.
And he did, and he was just like, like, so what? Like, go do it. It's not that, like, it's not out there. The idea of having a tracking app that was built for paddlers and built for our community didn't really exist, or didn't really exist kind of in the way that I wanted it to. So it was just like, why don't you just go for it and see what happens? And also at the time, I couldn't afford like a big fancy watch. So I was like, I've got a phone that's basically does this, but it doesn't do it quite right. And here we are. Like, it genuinely is that kind of almost extraordinary. You know, he put me in touch with a friend of his, with Lewis, and he's been working on it with me since the beginning. And now we've got this kind of global audience, and I'm sat here talking to you, and it all feels quite surreal. Yeah.
But it's wonderful. And it is identifying that need or that niche or that, you know, desire that would work for you. That's what entrepreneurship is all about, you know, finding that right place and that product that's needed. And you make a really good point, because there are some very expensive things out there that do work, but this is free. I mean, everybody on here right now needs to be looking at their phone, and I mean, we want you to watch us, but download the app once you're done, because it's free. And I did, you have a neat newsletter. You really do have community, and it's cool that you've been at it so long, because you've really been able to respond and build on it too, which I think is so cool.
For sure. Like, when I started, we were like, let's make it. It was actually paid up front at the beginning, because I was like, okay, I'm going to need to make some money back. And it was like 79 pence or something. And I had a surprising number of people be like, love this. This is awesome. We want to be a part of this. And literally, and it was really simple then as well, you know, like I said, we were just kind of feeling out the idea and what's good, what's bad, you know. And I had developed this kind of constant communication with users, constant communication with people, kind of go, oh, it would be awesome, but if it did this, it'd be even better. Don't do that, because that's you know. And we kind of, as a community, I think, of paddle logger users and people that I've come to know across my paddling career as well, kind of we've all built, I feel like it's very much a community effort building it up. So it's been a kind of this long form game. It has taken, 5, 6 years now to get where we are. But I feel like we've really done the work in, in kind of growing that community and those kind of meaningful relationships with customers, and at the end of the day, even still now, if you've got a problem with Paddle Logger and you get into help, in the app, we have a help system and you contact us, you're talking to myself or one other person. Like, it's still us. Like,
Yeah.
we deal with everything. And I don't know how many, big businesses or anything like that, can really say that they do that. And that's because we want to be speaking to you guys out there as paddlers. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah. Another feature that I just adore that we talked a little bit about is it's so easy. You download the app and you are there, and there's this giant go button.
Exactly, right? And like, if I had my own way, if I could, snap my fingers, I don't want to be taking a phone out. I don't want to be taking a watch out. I don't want to be taking any sort of technology out. Like, for me, paddling is my escapism. It's where I go to get away from all my emails. And I think a lot of people may be able to relate to this.
Mm-hmm.
That it's where you go to kind of, it's where you go to escape. It's where you go to kind of not be connected.
Yeah.
But of course, that comes with its own challenges that actually sometimes you need to be, sometimes you need to take a phone with you in case you get into difficulty. Sometimes you're training and you want to know how far you've been. So we put a lot of effort and, over the last couple of years, that it's this minimal design. You press it once and you forget about it, and we do everything. All the stuff happens. All the safety stuff we have, there's fully automated. You don't actually have to press a button. All of the tracking stuff's fully automated. Even all of the virtual race stuff, which we added this year, is fully automated. Once you've pressed start, you don't even have to press stop at the end of your distance. Like, it just cuts off when you've completed your distance.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, because we want you to concentrate on paddling and being the best paddler you can be, not being the best floating, balancing iPhone user, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where that all came from, this one button, stow it and go. It is quite, it's amusing. A lot of people, I think, don't expect that from a technical product. That we have had the odd person kind of ask for support, saying kind of, how do I don't understand. How does it start? Like, where do I set up? Where do I sign in? Where do I do this?
Where's all the...
Yeah, where's all the stuff that you would normally expect? Like, where do I link it with Facebook? Where do I, I mean, it's like, no, none of that, no frills. You just press go and have an awesome time.
But it is interesting because a lot of the fancier products, people I know are choosing to opt out. So they have to spend time not getting notifications, not getting emails, like you said, so that they can have the peace out there. They don't want all the extras necessarily. And you mentioned a couple things, and one of them that I think is just one of the beautiful things about this is that you are a member of our community and you did this out of your own. So the fact that I'm a member of the Virtual Paddle League, for instance, that is so cool that you linked up with them almost immediately when they set up that league that's going for the rest of 2020, that, and that you can attach to that through your app. So cool.
And again, like, the whole reason behind, like, if I'm honest, the whole reason behind that, we kind of had a couple of conversations with different people about creating a whole league and like the Paddle Logger League and, our own things about making our own event. And if I'm completely honest, we're a tiny company with no, like, it's not like we have kind of a heap of developers who can just conjure up something very quickly. There's Lewis, who is the developer, like, he runs that. So we were looking at quite a long development time for actually creating something like that. And then we kind of stepped back a little bit and just went, well, is that actually even what we want to do? Because our whole thing has been about enabling paddlers to do whatever they like. They can share to Facebook, they can share to Instagram, they can share to Strava, they can share to all of these other places. So surely we want paddlers to be able to enter any event that they like. So let's continue this ethos of making it really, really easy.
I love that.
And it's just,
and connecting, because that's, I feel strongly about connecting the SUP world, and that's a perfect connection where, this group that's doing this, that's really spending all this time on it, and you're connecting, and then therefore everybody and
ultimately wins. They're spending a lot of time on it, and they're very, very good at doing what they do. And it's like, well, if we can help that and we can enable people to easily get involved in that. And I think this year especially has been really strange for the Sup world. Like everyone
Mhm.
knows that it's been a bit odd. But like there was a period where I think I saw an article, I can't remember who wrote it, about the industry being quite fragile and, you know, it could go either way. And so, and we were like, right, okay, we've got to do stuff that kind of brings this community together. And I think you've got a
Mhm.
lot of events that are actually, the virtual events are really, really accessible. Because ultimately, even if you're a bit timid or you're a bit nervous about turning up at a big event and there's, you know, 100 people with a load of carbon boards and everything
Yeah.
else, and you rock up on an inflatable, and you know, it's it can be intimidating. So actually getting involved and putting a time up, maybe by yourself, maybe kind of with a group of your local community, putting a time online, competing with the rest of the world is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And just having something that everyone can kind of get around. I think it's really cool that organizations have taken that on
Yeah. I mean,
and
this
then
weekend's
really
an
run with it.
example, slightly off topic, but
Oh,
I'm
right. No,
doing
yeah,
Molokai to Oahu. It is the biggest paddle event ever.
exactly. And they've had huge numbers of
1,700
entries.
people have
Yeah.
entered and
It's
paid for this
how,
event, which is it's this amazing, one of the toughest
yeah,
events. The real one is across the Channel
yeah,
of Bones
exactly.
between two islands. It's half the regular length, but still, that many
But
people, 16 miles, I don't know how many kilometers that is. That's a long way for a lot of
yeah, it's a
people.
long way for a lot of people. But I think the fact that they've shortened it, it's like all of a sudden it's super accessible.
And you do
It's
it where you
challenge.
are. Yeah.
You can do it where I can go. Well, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to do the like the full event. Am I even a good enough paddler to do it? Probably not at the moment.
Probably.
So I need to do some track. But like I can go. Okay, I can try this event, see how I get on. Okay, that's 16. Okay, can I do 32, but with like support boats and other people?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I put myself at the edge of my comfort zone. I've learned. I feel like I'm going to go on to the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that this year, because of this, I think the 2021 race series across all countries,
Mm-hmm.
whether, you know, especially like in the UK, I think it will be particularly, but I'm obviously closer to that. There's going to be much larger fleets of people wanting to get
Yes.
involved, and
Yes.
you know,
In a
and I think that's awesome.
in a
You know,
strange turn, I think we're going to be more connected. For instance,
yeah.
this virtual paddle league, I am finding people. Verity Thomas, maybe you've met her before. She lives
I
on
bought her old board last week.
oh, small world. Well,
Yeah,
I found out we're very similar in times because we're posting our
right.
times, and I'm thinking it
Yeah,
would be so fun to race against you at some point,
exactly.
even
On
though
the
she lives
same
on the
body
other
of
side of the
water,
earth.
in the same
Yes.
conditions, and go,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's see.
But for
Yeah,
now,
we're
we
in
get
this
to
sort of
have a
band.
fun
Yeah,
competition. You know, she's definitely a better sprinter than me, but we're a little closer, maybe a 5K. Yeah,
they've
it's
just
so
started the
fun.
200-meter event, so I'll look at the times and see where you. I'm expecting some
Yeah.
big things then.
Well, some of the people watching are doing MTO. Is it Supper or Super Lola? Is that somebody you know? Has commented on uses paddle logger and is also doing M2O.
Oh,
Looks like
awesome! Good luck.
Sup Junkie also. So yeah, everyone have a wonderful paddle on Saturday. Let's gonna hop back and forth a little bit because you're a racer too. And I love
Eh.
your yeah, you're so funny. Modest. Wait, are
Oh,
Brits like Canadians? Like they downplay?
oh yeah, yeah.
No,
Okay,
you get
okay.
out there. So what's the number one requirement? You're having fun.
Yeah,
We've talked a lot about community. Yeah,
yeah.
but you get out there, and I love it that you race. You said usually on your inflatable.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think over the last couple of years, especially inflatables, the technology's kind of got better, and it got to a point
Mm-hmm.
I think where I just went, I'm not going to be a much better paddler for paddling on a hardboard. I'm going to stick to my inflatable. I think it's awesome. I'm, you know, and yeah, you know, like the latest inflatables are not that far off the top
Mm-hmm.
race, you know. So it starts to come about what kind of engines on the, you know, riding it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I love the events. I think they're great. I love turning up to an event. I love like the whole like I am quite a competitive person, but I don't think I'm competitive enough to really commit to a training like regime. Do you know, like, I just want to have fun and just want to enjoy it, and I love, you know, and I love the whole kind of what happens around events and meeting people in the community and chatting to people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, with Paddle Logger, like we were saying yesterday, like I've got my own, you know, we as a brand, we don't have much marketing. Like as a budget, we don't have much marketing. We're a tiny company, don't have much marketing budget, so we kind of have to think scrappy, I suppose. So I sort of take it upon myself to, you know, okay, how can I get into as many pictures as possible? How can I, I'll stick being in an inflatable class for the 14-foot inflatables in the UK, there aren't as many paddlers that enter that event. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, fingers crossed, I might pick up a podium here and there, which is nice. Which is okay. Paddle logger shirt on quickly. Let's get the branding out there. And I just think it's great fun. Like more people should do events. Like
And it
they're
is. And
awesome.
we all know how wonderful it is and need to keep growing it. And it is
Mm,
the age group class or what we're not recreational racer. No, we're more than that. But
yeah,
I just hope we can continue to get it organized and connected throughout the world. And I do think it's interesting that these strange times might actually
for sure.
help
Yeah,
make that happen. Yeah.
I've been to 3 training sessions that have been led by a coach in the last month. That's never happened in the last 6 years. Like I might even be competitive next year. I bought a hardboard last week, like for the first time ever. UK
Woo!
paddlers, watch
Getting
out.
serious. Yeah. And I'm much older than you, but and I kind of have done the other thing. I live in one of the hubs of stand-up paddleboarding where it started
Yeah,
early, and I'm in a training club,
right.
and get to be a substitute coach there, and am really into the training part of it. That's just like I love that part of it too. So many aspects of it that we love. So back to Paddlelogger, you mentioned, what does your customer look like then? What's a typical customer
Do
who's using Paddlelogger? Is
you
there?
know what? It's surprisingly broad. So obviously we've got our kind of customer demographics, right? I think the way I look at it, kind of going back to what we were just talking about racing, I think the
Mm-hmm.
easiest way to kind of describe it is you have your ones and your tens, right? Everyone on this planet has been a one at some point. You've never been on a board before. You're a novice. You're completely learning how to paddle. And you've got the tens who are APP World Tour. They're like, we all know who they are. And I think for paddle logger, we kind of sit our broadest market tends to be in probably the 4 to 8, maybe. I think above that, once you start getting into the elite paddlers, everyone's got their own. You go and invest in hardware, don't you? It's in the same way you'd invest in the latest board every year. You go and invest in a speed coach. You go and invest in a Velocitech. You go and invest in an EPIRB or a PLB, depending on what type of paddling you're doing. And I think we kind of sit kind of below this. We don't want to take that away from people. Those guys are doing what they're doing and are absolutely charging with that. And I think we sit below that at this place where people are wanting to get better. They're wanting to improve. They're wanting to improve as paddlers. They're wanting to get out there. And I think where we sit, I suppose, for those paddlers is offering the tracking where they can see, okay, how far they've been, how they're improving,
Mm-hmm.
but also the safety side where actually, I mentioned comfort zones earlier. And I think
Yeah.
whenever I kind of talk about this, I talk about you've got your comfort zone and then your learning zone. We want to enable people at the edge of their comfort zone to mitigate risk. So it's a bit safer for them, maybe. So they're
Mm-hmm.
constantly connected. We want them to be able to see the progress that they're making as paddlers so they can see that what they're achieving, and ultimately become a better paddler and become, looking to explore and looking to do more. And I think I was having this conversation last night actually with someone, and we were talking about this whole idea of a lot of new people are currently entering the sport, and
Yes.
it's amazing to see. It's honestly, it's crazy, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
UK. And I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but it's awesome, right?
Up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. And part of that's 'cause it's so accessible. Essentially, anyone can do that. It's like, anyone can stand up and have an awesome time. But to do that, you do need a little bit of direction. You do need a little bit of lessons or someone to point out what you're doing right or wrong. And again, on this comfort zone, learning zone, there's this bit at the bottom where you have a bit of success and you fail and a bit of success and you fail. And this is where you have the suck zone, right? Because you always feel like this is rubbish. And the people in that zone kind of go, oh, this is a rubbish sport. I'm never going to come back to it. So we want to get people out of that zone really, really quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
most of our users sit probably in the kind of 2 to 8
Yeah.
on that
Well, and
scale.
you as we've mentioned, even though you and I both race, the whole idea of adventure and exploration.
Yeah.
And I've been
Oh,
now on a
yeah.
couple of sup camping trips where you bring your gear and dry bags and camp along the
Yeah.
river. love that part of it.
And how
yeah.
it changes everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The accessibility of what you can do suddenly becomes completely different. Where we normally paddle, it's the same bit of coastline. And don't get me wrong, I can go out every day and do a different route every day because it's the sea and you can kind of strike out in whatever direction.
Yeah.
But none of those paddles are ever the same. Like in 6 years, I've never had a paddle that's been exactly the same as the one before. Conditions have been different. The people I've with have been different. The waves been, and I think that is something that is genuinely like amazing about this sport, is that it's so super accessible. You have the ability to do so many things with it. You can go and have a camping adventure, which is just the coolest thing ever, to rock up on a beach that you can't access any other way than by the sea, and you haven't got to stare at a boat that you've pulled up in. And like there is just something really there's just something really great about it,
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah. You also have talked some about an important feature that some people don't want to think about, but really is important. I mean, we partly come from a kayak culture that's very careful and always suggests anytime you go out on the water, whatever craft you're on, you need to file a float plan. Well, I know that's a term that's not known very much in the SUP world, but it really is important. And like you said, you love the solidarity, the independence of sometimes being out by yourself. So you've really expanded on that, I think, recently, the safety aspect of Paddle-Logger.
I mean, paperwork is really boring. Like I'm not breaking any, paperwork is dull. We all know that we should probably, like a really basic float plan, even if it's texting your significant other or a friend saying, heading out, going to be about 2 hours, going to head out to the point and back. Basic float plan, float plan even. But we got talking to people, and again, this kind of comes from me because I'm lazy, and I was like, well, I don't do that. I wonder how many other people don't do that, And we started having these conversations and talking, and everyone else was like, oh yeah, I probably ought to, but I mean, it's never going to happen to me, is it? And it's that attitude, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, well, how can we address that? How can we add something that automatically does it within the app that, to all intents and purposes, no one really notices it happening? Like it's just, again, it's pressing that one button, but you're immediately connected. So I have my girlfriend set up as an emergency contact. She got a text message saying, Dave's gone paddling. He thinks he's going to be about 2 hours. Here's a little trip map. Keep an eye on him, and it will have all my updated coordinates and battery life of my phone, constantly updating kind of every couple of minutes or so. And then if I don't come back within 2 hours, say, she'll get another message saying, Dave went paddling 2 hours ago. Can you just make sure he's okay? See where he is on the map. Has he forgot to turn the app off? Has his phone died? And it's all about providing information. It might just be that I've stopped off at the pub, or I've gone to a slightly different place, or I've gone out a bit longer, or my phone's died.
Yeah.
But I'm providing information to someone.
But to so easily be accountable, I think, is a fantastic feature and one that's really important.
It's up to them what they want to do. They can either go, oh, yeah, he'll be back in 5 minutes, or they can go to the nearest headland, get the binoculars out, check where I am. They can, all sorts of things. We've had people that I've never even thought that this was a use case, using it for downwinders and just getting picked up.
Oh, there you go. Where I am.
So just being able to follow someone and go, oh, okay, so they'll probably be there. We'll probably be at the finish point in about 20 minutes. I'll leave now. And then I was talking to one of our ambassadors last week, Holly Pye. She's a UK racer, and she was just saying, oh, it's brilliant because I can make sure that whoever's picking me up can stick the dinner on. And I was like, yeah, that's all of these other, really smart kind of ways of using something, and but yeah, predominantly we'd like it to be used for safety, but used for many other reasons, like making sure your dinner doesn't get cold.
Yeah. All good. So the race scene there in the UK, like how often do you race? Is it very seasonal? Where do they tend to be? Are they mostly people from England?
It's very much a kind of a UK scene. Like there have been a couple of larger events where we've seen people coming over. I mean, we've had obviously the APP tour has stopped twice in London. There was years ago, there was a stop for the Euro tour down in Cornwall, which was really, really cool. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen like the top races. And that was just, as a young guy getting to the sport, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is really cool. But predominantly, events are all kind of all around the country, starting kind of, I don't even know what the month the first time. Well, is the first month of the year. It's probably about 8 months, 9 months, I would say, that the race season lasts. Someone from GB Sup's going to pop up and go, that is completely wrong, Dave. Don't listen to this guy. But yeah, so so what's really interesting is over the last couple of years, a couple of series have developed. So we've got the GB Sup UK National Tour, which is about 7 races all over the country. And that's really cool because there's 3 flat water races, which are inland, 3 ocean races. And then we've got one, which is, I've not seen it elsewhere, but is a sprint race, which uses one of the boating lakes up in Nottingham. So it's quite cool because it's the same that you'd have for rowing. So you've got the little peg that drops down in the water and it's just go for 200 meters. Oh, there we go. Sup Junkie. April to October.
She knows. Okay.
She knows. Thank you very much. Putting me in my place. So we've got this now really kind of quite diverse tour of races that are going on that kind of cover quite a lot of different aspects of water states, flat water, ocean, battle of the paddle type racing. And then as well as that, there's a lot of regional racing. Regional kind of big events that aren't on that tour, which are generally kind of, again, really, really well attended. There's a couple of really cool downwind races. There was one that was supposed to kick off this year that I was really excited about, actually, and then that got postponed, which is sad. But hopefully that will come back. And that was a really nice, I think it's like a 50-kilometer downwind race down in Cornwall, which is awesome. And then there's also the UK Endurance Series, which has got some really, really cool races for kind of ultras and kind of 2 days, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's one that goes from one side of Scotland to the other, which is really, really cool.
Cool.
So there's a really big variation, and then all of the little clubs, like I'm assuming you have in the States, everyone's got their little club races and their little club seasons, and they'll probably run throughout the year. So there'll be a summer series and a frostbite series for the winter, which are nice, but I'm sure you can imagine what a winter race in the UK is like.
A little chilly.
A little chilly, yeah. But it's great. So you can, and all of these are really accessible, right? And like I was saying about, it can be quite intimidating if you've got a lineup of 100 people or 50 to 100 people, and people wanting to get involved in racing. Like, it's super accessible now in the UK. And I really think that, again, with this year, lots of people who are getting their first board, who are seeing the sport, we've come out of lockdown and just want to get out and have an awesome time. They're all going to get involved. Hopefully they'll all get involved with clubs. Hopefully they'll all get involved with kind of starting maybe some of the virtual races. To maybe next year, again, 2021, there could be a huge number of fleets at each race, which will just be awesome. Right. And I think that'd be really, really cool. And again, I've just seen Sup Junkie in the comments, I'm sorry. There's also we also have a really big, and actually this is really cool. And I remember doing the very, very first one back in 2012, 2013, which is called the Sup Club Championships, so every club in the UK or up to a certain, most clubs in the UK will put forward a team for a kind of a day of racing across various different events. And that's just a really fun event to do. That's really cool because you suddenly see everyone in the community at all different levels coming out and getting involved. And it's there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff coming. I think
Very
it'll be
fun.
a good year next year as well. Yeah.
I do have to say that sadly we don't have a club environment in the US. We
Oh,
don't
really?
have we don't have water clubs. I know in Australia, what do they call them? And they all have their coastal clubs. Like almost everyone belongs to
the SLSC clubs and the surf life saving.
Like that's just part of life. And so I wish we did. It would be a lot easier to connect things, but we're a big old country with a bunch of states where things are done differently in different places.
Oh, that's really interesting. So so this year Lewis and I were going to come over to the States because for the Worldwide Developer Conference, Apple's kind of big tech thing, obviously in California, and we sort of planned a month trip down the East Coast, right? And we were like, it's going to be amazing. We're going to go paddling every day. We're going to hook up with all the clubs. So
you will find places, and I would start with stores, but yeah, we'll help you out, and it will be wonderful to paddle, but it's it's still fairly disjointed, so it's interesting that we don't have that one. Because now I'm being told to start one. Okay.
Well, yeah, but like I always see the States and be like, oh, there's so many paddlers. There must be quite a kind of cohesive
no, it's interesting.
thing.
We've kind of had to find each other. So you've talked about clubs and paddling around. If you were to name, somebody comes to visit England, you just talked about you're going to visit the US. Top three spots that you would suggest people go paddling, or just throw out 3 of your favorites.
That's horrible. That's a horrible question. There's loads of cool places.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah,
you've got to go. I mean, so I've spent most of the last kind of 8 years paddling down in the southwest, down in Cornwall, and there, Carby Space and Ives, which is where the Celtic Cup is, where the Bucker Cry Downwinder is, where that Euro Tour Sup event was a couple of years. Like that's a great place to go. But I think really all of that coastline, because you get everything. It's kind of rugged. It's kind of you got the North Coast, which is super rugged, loads of like big cliffs, great surf. So you can do some touring, some downwinders, and some surfing. And then the South Coast is completely different. It's a lot more. It's a lot less gnarly. It's a lot less kind of. It's a lot calmer. You can do a lot more touring, a lot more kind of just flat water, chilling out, in the water. So those two. And someone's just put Loch Ness here. Yeah. So that's
Lola from Texas. She wants to know if Loch Ness would be a good place to
go. Funnily enough, in December last year, we went on a trip just kind of around the Highlands of Scotland. We stopped off in Loch Ness, but also the entire West Coast, East.
Is that the Lake
West
District?
Coast. No,
that's
just in the UK. Okay. Lake District is good, but the entire West Coast of Scotland as well, and the lochs all around there, and the Caledonian Canal, Loch Ness, I would say are some pretty top places. So there's 2 really remote ones, and then what will be a third one? I'll go with Sup Junkie and say the Lake District because it is
there you
beautiful. Go. And it's a bit easier to get to.
And it is hard to name places. And because we enjoy stand-up paddling in so many ways, there's so many different things in different places. How about you yourself? Do you have kind of a bucket list of where you would go? Anywhere in the world. Doesn't need to necessarily be in the UK.
Okay, so there is a place that I would love to go that is not necessarily because of its like paddling pedigree, I don't think. But ever since we started this company, so when we first started, we were completely remote workers. So Lewis was he lived in New Zealand for a while. I'd kind of done some traveling. I was in Kenya for a little bit. We were kind of bouncing around, and kind of not having an office was great. And I guess we were this kind of digital nomad, types. And there's a place I found I want to say it's in Central America somewhere. It's this amazing eco lodge on a tiny island in the middle of like some mangroves. I think it would be mangrove. Yeah. Just in the middle of nowhere and just lagoons. And I was like, it had Wi-Fi.
There you go.
And I said to Lewis, I was like, we are going to get to a point where we're going to do a work trip where we're just going to live there for a month, and we're going to keep building. We're going to paddle every day. It's going to be awesome. And so whenever people ask me about where's the best place to paddle, and they kind of go, oh, I don't know, like somewhere in Australia or some like really cool, like some of the big, like famous paddle spots or whatever. I'm always like, no, there's this tiny place that in Central America that I really want to go to. I think it's in Panama somewhere, and it's always been like, we'll get there.
Islands definitely
That's
have an
probably
appeal, don't they? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's probably a really rubbish answer for you and your viewers, isn't
No,
it?
no. Now it's the mysterious island. I want to find out the name. I'm gonna
Yeah,
follow up. You need to look that up and tell us
yeah, exactly.
where
Yeah,
is
it
that
is.
mystery island.
But again, going
Absolutely.
back to
Yeah.
your thing about camping and exploring, it's that. It's just getting out there and paddling, getting out there and having fun, getting out there and exploring, getting away from it. And that's what, at the core, that's what paddling is for me.
Yeah.
And that is,
And
yeah.
I've been able to squeeze that in 10 years of racing. I have looked for destination places that I want to
Yeah,
go to anyway. One of my favorite, actually, on inflatable race weekends was in St. Croix, an island. It was the Coconut
yeah,
Cup.
yeah,
And it was a couple days of racing, different types of races, but it was on this amazing island. And we saw
yeah,
different parts of it and different waters, different features, along the land. Every place is
exactly.
amazing. What's underwater is different. That you talk about that
Exactly.
perspective.
And you get this like amazing kind of, yeah, islands always have it, right? We have the Isles of Scilly kind of again off Cornwall in the UK, and it's like a little archipelago, a pain to get to, but
Mm,
again, really beautiful. It's like a Caribbean island, and it's you just can go one side, it's on the leeward side, it's completely different to the other side, and you can just have an amazing time island hopping around, doing a bit
yeah.
of, yeah, whatever you fancy. It's just awesome.
One flip side of that, I have to say that I was kind of surprised but have loved is I've been in some races that are in cities or like downtown.
Yeah.
And again, that perspective to go up a river in Miami, Florida, and be trying not to hit the manatees, who gets to do
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
mean,
that?
it is strange, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. Just
It's,
again, different perspective.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say, it's all that different perspective. And then when you see people in cities as well, and I think that, it's definitely what the APP have tried to do with this is the World Cities Festival. It's the Cities Festivals, haven't they, tried to create around all their events. And they do it
Hmm.
really well in Paris, right, with the Nautique.
Yeah.
1,000 paddleboarders
Have
heading
you
down
done
the
that?
set. I've not. It was on
That's
my
on my
list.
bucket list.
It's
I
on
mean,
my,
even as
yeah.
crazy as it is, it's freezing cold. I don't care.
I've,
Sounds wonderful.
yeah, it's just because again, why is that? It's because there's 1,000 people all with the same goal of heading down. It's that community. It's just
Yeah.
having an awesome time. You don't need to be up the front charging away, and you can just, yeah. There's another race in Greece as well that's quite similar. That's on have you seen?
Is
I
that
don't
the
know if you
one in
see
the
it. The
canal?
gorge, yeah.
Yes.
Again,
And you look
something
at
like,
that and just say, what an amazing thing to accomplish,
yeah,
to go through that amazing,
and
I
it, and it,
forget, Corinth Canal, maybe?
it's the Corinth
Forgot the
Canal, yeah.
name, yeah.
And again, it's exactly the same thing. It's what, a couple of hundred paddleboarders,
Hmm.
dead straight line. I was chatting to someone who did it a couple of years ago, or was it maybe last year? And he said it's quite strange because you've got, obviously, if you're at the front, you've got clean water, but it gets very kind of off rebounding off the walls and things. And the backwash, it gets quite choppy, and it's actually quite challenging paddle for something that's not necessarily that long.
Yeah.
But again, another really cool race.
Very fun. Well, between racing for so many years and just being a part of and paddling for a decade and building this app and all the community there, can you give some maybe advice? What would be, and we talked about building, continuing to grow. I think we both strongly agree that that's so important. And we've got a lot of people coming in right now. What are some kind of tips in getting started? You actually sort of, I would say, like gave one already, which is getting a little bit of instruction.
Yeah,
Or I'll
right.
throw that one in.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, yeah. So getting instruction, I think, is key. Like, you can invest however much in a board
Oh,
using the app. That's really weird. I'm back.
oh, you're back.
You can. Sorry about that.
No
You
problem.
can get you can get a board and reinvest and whatever. But like one lesson for 1 hour with someone who can just point you in the right direction, you've got that for life. That sounds really cheesy.
So your paddle
doesn't it?
Isn't backwards, which I see all the
Yeah,
time.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
But like you've got that knowledge then that you can build on. You've got the knowledge of wind. You've got the knowledge of little things that will help get you started. That will get you out of that suck zone quicker than
Yeah.
than you otherwise would. And then the other two things I would say probably are join a club before anything else. Kind of even before you've bought a board. I mean, again, if you don't have clubs in the States, maybe it's a little bit more tricky. But like in the UK and in other places, there are these amazing communities of people, and you can get out. You can try loads of different boards. If you don't really know what you're getting into, or you don't really know, like, oh, I don't really know if I want to be a surfer. I don't want to know if I want to be a racer. I don't really want to know if I want to be a tourer. Clubs will have all of that equipment there. You can get involved. You can try all these different things and kind of really grow a bit faster, I suppose, really into what you want to do, without kind of spending money on a board, then having to get rid of it because actually it's rubbish, or then actually maybe falling out of love with the sport because you haven't tried the right thing. And then the third thing probably is actually invest in a paddle before anything else.
Yeah.
Because you can have a rubbish board and you can have a kind of like a big barge that, you know, that's fine. But it's the paddle that you're swinging around. Even if you don't own a board, right, and you are joining a club, invest in your own paddle that you've got to your right height. It's the right kind of blade size for you. You don't have to worry about trying to find a club one that, you know.
Yeah.
As you progress, you've got something that's yours that you can develop with, and you can get the right thing for you, and it improves the experience.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I so agree with you. The enjoyment, and as well as your physical well-being.
Yeah.
Some people use a paddle that's, you know, 4 or 5 times heavier than what I use regularly, and I think, oh my goodness, you're going to blow out your shoulders. The blade is gigantic because we started with that.
Have you ever like shared a paddle? If someone's like just got into a new sport, they've got the paddle that comes with like an inflatable or whatever. And then you go, oh, try mine. And you swap, right? And you suddenly realize kind of how heavy this thing is.
Yeah.
And this other person kind of realizes like, oh, wow, suddenly they kind of stand up a bit. They kind of realize that everything's a little bit more easy. It's a little bit more efficient. And then, you know, you get more out of it as a sport. And I think that's, you know, and then if I can throw in kind of a fun one is, you know, doesn't matter what you look like a Muppet and love it, you know. I see too many people.
Yeah.
I see too many people that are like, oh, I don't want to give it a go because there's loads of people on the beach and I might fall in and look silly. No, everyone's been a number one. Everyone's been a novice.
Yeah.
Just go out and have fun. They're not having fun out
and have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's my 3.5.
Those are very, very good. Very excellent ones. Kind of the converse then is, and maybe let's do this about racing, but sort of mistakes. Since you have been at it for a while, looking back, was there anything that held you back, or you've seen other people? So what are some common mistakes to avoid in getting into the race scene? Because we want people to try racing because it is fun and it is about community, and you don't have to be competitive. I think
part of it's almost the like fear of trying, the fear of going out, the fear of looking like it. I'll turn that on its head. You know, the fear of looking like an idiot. You know, the fear of kind of going, oh, I want to try this, but they're all really fast, and I'm not. And everyone starts somewhere, and I think you can quite easily avoid that by kind of getting in touch with the race organizers. You know, seeing what fleets are there. Most races, I think, probably you have a pro fleet, an amateur fleet, and maybe like an all-rounder surf shape fleet. So, you know, find events that cater really well to your skill level. Be kind of honest about your skill level as well. You know, I've seen a couple of people who've gone, right, brilliant, got my 14-foot board, I'm going to go and do this event. And, you know, I kind of have conversations with them and go, are you sure? Like, what class have you entered? And they're like, oh, I've entered the like pro whatever. I was like, oh.
People do start in different ways, don't they?
Yeah, people do start, and do you know what? If you love that and you're about that, that's awesome. That's fine. Go and if you can take that on the chin, because you know we kind of know how it's going to end up. Like that's great. If you're the kind of person that will do that and get a bit humbled by it, and then maybe don't come back, then just and ask people. Like it's a friendly sport. Like it's the most friendly sport there is probably. It's so try and get it right. I think those probably things. I don't know if I can think of too many other mistakes not to make.
Well, speaking of being humbled, you said there was one discipline that you do participate in, but that you don't consider yourself good at. And I think actually your advice, you just kind of what we just talked about is kind of part of that. And what would that be? I don't think anybody tried to guess.
Oh yeah,
You-
yeah. Don't if you see me in the surf lineup, get well away. um, like
But
like
surfing in general is one of the most challenging, and you have to
yeah,
humble yourself and know you're going to be messing
exactly.
up and falling a lot. It has a high learning curve, much more than a standard
Yeah,
flat water
exactly.
stand-up
And
paddleboarding.
I think, I'm someone who I am very, don't get me wrong, if you can find me an empty peak that has like no one in like about a 20-foot vicinity that I'm going to hit with a board, I will be out there and giving it a go. As
Well,
soon as there are other people,
yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to, and that's a confidence thing. I've even surfing, I'm not a great surfer, and stuff will happen. I'm just like, oh, I feel a bit like I just want to go and just learn on some small waves and kind of build it up. But
Well,
yeah, I've never been.
when you come out here, it sounds you said California, but you also said East Coast. If you do the West Coast, you're going to San Onofre, which is a learner's spot, and we
I
have a
meant
whole
West
stand-up
Coast. Sorry.
paddleboard section. And
Yeah,
you're going to be happy at whatever level you are, because the best surfer
this is what I
is the
mean.
one
Yeah,
having the most fun. I think that should be true
exactly,
of any sport.
exactly, and it is. It's all about that. I mean, it's bad. I'm reminded of a couple of months ago even, um, with a good friend of mine. There's this kind of small local break. This beach never gets any waves, but when it does, they're really, really good fun waves on a race board. And it was so much fun, and there was no one else there. It was awesome, and there were two of us in the water, and I can't even remember what happened. I think I was going right, and he kind of got caught with his board. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to get this huge inflatable barge to go left. And then there was a communication breakdown. And I managed to run him over. And, like, fortunately, it was an inflatable and it didn't do any damage. But there is this great video of obviously this kind of career in it. But, for people, again, in my position, I suppose, I would just say, be aware of what your skill level is. Try not to, you know, that was an empty lineup with no one else. I'm trying to, you want to stay out of the way of people and you want to kind of understand where you sit at
Yes.
and, and go and learn, right? And it's something that I need to do and go and find. And I know when you
Which,
do catch a wave, it is
yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah. And surfing, particularly, but any type of stand-up paddling, you do need to understand yourself and your own limits, as
Yeah.
well as and where you are right now, but
Yeah.
also Mother Nature and how it works and the etiquette. Surf has
100%.
a lot of etiquette with it too.
Yeah.
And I know surfing has kind of, as much as I love regular surfing, which I did before stand-up paddle surfing,
Yeah.
there's a piece of it that I don't really appreciate or like, and there's sort of a little hierarchical thing and
Yeah,
a
for sure.
snobbiness that I do not find in stand-up paddling at all in any aspect of it, which I hope we can hang on to that,
Yeah.
whatever aloha or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, but you're right. It's all about, I think, at the end of the day, getting out there, having fun, getting on the ocean, challenging yourself in whatever part of stand up you want to get involved in,
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, I think I often call it a kind of gateway paddle sport. The number of people that I know have started with stand up and then gone, they're now in OCs or they're now paddling, surf skis or things that are a little bit more a bit more challenging, or just because they were continually after that kind
Right.
of drive, right?
Right. And it's that addiction that we have. And you and I talked about that because you're a researcher.
Yeah.
They now have brain research about
Yeah,
being in, on, or near the water and its positive effects on us. And I think you
exactly.
and I are two examples of water addicts. And
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
just
out there
great.
enjoying it and it doesn't matter. I mean, I am addicted to stand-up paddleboarding, but there are other wonderful watercraft too that we
Yeah,
appreciate. And the crossover has been a huge part of our growth. And we've also brought more people to the water and into their
yeah.
different paddle aspects too. So I think it's all good.
Yeah,
So
it's just amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. And that ability to, yeah, like I said at the beginning, escapism, switching off, mental health, blue mind, all of that stuff.
yes.
Ultimately, those are the reasons why we paddle, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And hey, I have to give a special shout out to Lola because she gave all kinds of great advice. I don't know if you saw it going by on places to paddle, and she sounds like she's been all
Oh,
kinds of
awesome.
events. And she's agreeing. Aloha spirit is strong on the water and especially among suppers.
Yeah, cheers. Agreed.
Yeah. Yep. And she also at the beginning said some great comments about Paddle Logger.
Oh,
So you
well,
guys,
even
before we
better.
close out, you guys need to go to your phone and there's a free level of Paddle Logger.
Yeah.
The website, paddlelogger.com.
Paddlelogger.com.
You have a
Yeah.
really cool newsletter. And again, we've got David Walker behind this. And I forgot your partner's name, sorry. But
yeah, so it's myself and Lewis.
so
Yeah,
you are
he's the other
connected to
guy.
an actual paddler by
Yeah.
being as part of this app. So certainly take advantage of that. It was been fantastic to talk with you. Fascinated by everything that you're doing, both with Paddle Logger and what's happening in the UK with stand-up paddling. And I'm with you. I'm really hoping that the strangeness of this year can, in a way, bring us together and launch us into a 2021 that's really probably our best year ever in the race scene.
Here's hoping, right? I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah,
Can't not.
John Ahern's with us too, and he said,
Can
"Thanks,
I give
David.
a shout
Be
out
well."
to John? Because he was there right at the beginning. He was
Oh,
like
awesome.
one of the very first people who supported Paddle about 6 years ago.
And he's a wonderful part of our US Sup community on lots of levels, usually on Facebook through different groups. Yeah.
John is Sup legend.
Yeah. And if you're interested in racing, the Virtual Race League, and you can find it through Paddle Logger, is really, I think, really exciting because it's a way to, there's events too that I strongly suggest being a part of, but this goes on the whole rest of the year and you can do each race at the different lengths as many times as you want. And so it's kind of an ongoing, it's just been such a neat way to connect with people around the world, other racers. So
yeah, it's really cool. Get involved. I mean, it's been really fun. Like,
good stuff.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on, David. And again, this will immediately go to IGTV. If any of your friends missed it and you want to tell them, it will then be saved onto Supconnect's Supconnect Live YouTube channel, where I think we have about 18 interviews on there now. So good content where you can go and check in with a lot of the amazing, interesting people like David who are out there stand-up paddling and moving our sport forward and enjoying it, right? Number one. Don't forget on Facebook, there is Supconnect Live discussions, and we'll post some pictures and links and things in case, again, you've made it really easy to find Paddle Logger as long as you remember the name. So you can get that app and get started using it.
Awesome.
Great. So thanks, everyone. Take care. Stay well. And we'll see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.